Ashmore was a place of whispers, its secrets buried beneath time's shadows. Ellie stared out of her attic window, her heart heavy with regret and exhaustion. The faint flicker of light from St. Alaric's church broke the monotony of the night. It pulsed like a heartbeat, a siren call she couldn't ignore. As unease settled over her, Ellie felt the pull of something ancient, something waiting just beyond her reach. The rotting wood of St. Alaric's groaned beneath Ellie's cautious steps. The scent of decay and mildew invaded her senses as she ventured deeper, her flashlight trembling in her hand. Shadows danced against the walls, each one seeming to stretch toward her. The air grew heavier with every step, pressing against her chest as if warning her to turn back. But the flickering light called her onward, daring her to face the darkness below. Ellie's breath caught as she entered the crypt, the grimoire resting ominously on its grotesque pedestal. Its surface seemed to ripple, alive with dark energy, the etched symbols shifting in the dim light. The room pulsed with an unnatural hum, wrapping her in its suffocating presence. As her trembling fingers touched the book's warm surface, the pages turned themselves, whispering promises too dangerous to ignore. Ellie's heart pounded as she read the haunting words. One wish, granted for one price. With desperation tightening its grip, Ellie whispered her wish into the crypt's suffocating darkness. "I wish for my mother to be healed," she said, her voice trembling. The room responded instantly, plunging into an abyss of silence before erupting with a guttural, inhuman laugh. A faceless shadow detached itself from the wall, towering over her as it uttered chilling words. "Your debt begins now." Ellie's scream was swallowed by the oppressive void, her flashlight revealing monstrous murals that seemed to come alive. The faceless figure's laughter echoed in Ellie's ears as she bolted from the church, her footsteps frantic against the decaying wood. Her flashlight flickered, casting eerie glimpses of the monstrous murals, their hollow eyes following her. She stumbled out into the cold night, the air biting at her skin. But even as she escaped the crypt, she couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't truly alone. The darkness clung to her, a reminder of the deal she had made. Ellie ran home, her thoughts tangled with fear and hope, but what she found left her breathless. Her mother, who had been confined to her bed for weeks, was sitting upright, her cheeks flushed with color, her eyes bright and alert. For the first time in months, her mother spoke her name clearly, her voice strong and steady. Ellie clutched her mother's hands, tears streaming down her face as a wave of relief swept over her. For a fleeting moment, it felt as though all the darkness had lifted and the nightmare was over. The next morning, Ellie froze as she passed the mirror. Her mother's reflection didn't move when she did. It remained unnaturally still, watching with obsidian black eyes. Ellie's pulse quickened as the air in the room seemed to grow colder. The haunting melodies her mother hummed in an unfamiliar voice echoed faintly. Unease crawled under her skin as she realized that the wish she had made had warped the very essence of her mother's being. Desperation drove Ellie to Mr. Grayson, the town historian whose face turned ashen as she recounted her ordeal. "The grimoire doesn't grant wishes," he whispered. "It trades them, your mother's life for your soul." Ellie's stomach twisted as he shared the grim tales of others who had been lured by the book's promises, only to meet horrific ends. As she begged for a way out, Grayson shook his head, his voice trembling. "No one escapes. It always takes what it's owed." Ellie returned home, her heart heavy with Mr. Grayson's warnings, only to find her mother standing in her room. Her shadow stretched unnaturally across the walls, her black eyes gleaming in the moonlight. "You shouldn't have made the deal," her mother said, her voice layered with something ancient and sinister. Ellie's chest tightened with terror as whispers filled the air around her. The faceless figure's presence loomed, a chilling reminder that her debt would soon come due. Ellie fled to Mr. Grayson's home, seeking refuge, but found him hanging lifeless, a note pinned to his chest. "It never ends." The air grew thick as the faceless figure appeared, its void-like form consuming the room. Ellie's screams echoed in the suffocating silence as the walls dissolved into darkness. Trapped in an endless void, she was surrounded by twisted faces of those who had fallen before her. The faceless figure reached out, and as Ellie's own reflection smiled back at her from its void, she knew her fate was sealed.